Everyone knows that inflation is this terrifying monster, but they don't really understand what it is. Most people think that when inflation increases and prices increase, that when inflation stops, prices are going to decrease. That's not how it works. Inflation is just the rate at which prices are rising in like a month or a year. So if you look at countries like Argentina and Turkey, which have 33% inflation for the year, that means prices went up that year by 33%. And they're never coming back down unless there's some kind of economic catastrophe. So we can easily say that Argentina and Turkey are victims of hyperinflation. Prices are rising out of their control. They've overprinted their currency. It's pretty much becoming worthless paper. And last year, in 2024, inflation for Argentina was about 115%. And for Turkey, it was 55%. So yeah, prices already almost doubled, actually more than doubled in Argentina last year, went up 33%, and prices went up by 55% last year in Turkey, and then went up another 33%. So yeah, inflation bad. Okay, hyperinflation is bad, but the Federal Reserve believes that inflation at 2% is fine. That's actually healthy for a growing economy. Now, Russia is reporting inflation at 8.1% for 2025, but that's official sources. More third-party sources are saying that it's closer to maybe 14 or 15%. Now, go down the line, Brazil, UK, Mexico, South Africa, Australia. Inflation is a little higher, but it's nothing too catastrophic. But go to the United States, and this is for August of 2025, and it says that inflation is 2.9%. That's been revised. It's now 3%. Now, inflation has been rising in the United States. Around April, it was at 2.3%, and it's been creeping up and up and up. And we all know it is because of the tariffs. That's in fact why inflation is increasing across most of the planet, even in the developed nations. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not just tariffs that cause inflation. Printing money and easy monetary policy also increases inflation because, again, when you have more of a currency in supply relative to the amount of goods that are out there, yeah, the demand for that currency drops. So prices rise. But tariffs raise prices twofold. For one, like the United States, we are the world's largest importer. So when we raise the prices of our imports, there we go, prices go up. The second manner is there are a lot of manufacturers in the United States and just overall producers who rely on foreign imports from all over the world. And sometimes they don't have the budget to pay for what they want to import. So we start to see shortages of some goods, and that also raises the price. Now you go down the line further, Japan, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, India, the Eurozone, Canada, they're not having really a lot of trouble with inflation. They're actually doing quite well. But look at China. That's a problem. You see that negative number? That is even scarier than hyperinflation. This is deflation. And guys, I am not trying to poo-poo on China. They are a huge manufacturing and intellectual powerhouse. They contribute a lot to the world, even though I disagree with some of their government policies. But really, China does have a very strong, impressive, and diverse economy. Now, deflation sounds great because that means prices are going down. So yeah, Argentina, Turkey, they could absolutely use some deflation. But that doesn't work when it's across the board, especially for an exporting country. And I'm going to say something that also sounds very good, but it's actually very bad. When prices start dropping, that means the value of the currency starts rising. That sounds great, right? The reason why prices start dropping and the value of the currency rises is because there's not enough currency in the system. So there is a shortage of money. There is not enough money circulating in the system. Consumers start cutting back. That means that producers, storefronts, manufacturers, you name it, they start lowering prices to be able to sell some kind of goods. And when they have to keep lowering prices, that also usually means they start firing people because they want to stay above water. And this doesn't just happen to one or two companies. This happens across the board in most industries. And when you have a huge surge in unemployment, guess what? There's even less money in the system, and the producers start dropping prices even further. And at some point, they can't just fire everyone. They have to stay open. They start lowering wages. So we start to see a huge jump in unemployment and a huge drop in employee wages. Deflation is what made the Great Depression so horrendous. At the peak of the Depression in America, by 1933, wages dropped by about 40% and unemployment went up to 25%. It was by far the most desperate that America was, I don't know, since the Civil War. And I'm not saying that all of that tragedy and horrible stuff is going to happen to China. I think they are a very agile economy. They do have a lot of US dollars in reserve. And I think if things do get really bad, China will cooperate further with the United States to boost their economy. But either way, deflation is not where any economy, healthy or strong, wants to be. And the United States government is so terrified of deflation that if there is even a chance of, let's say, 0.1% drop in deflation, then they will release hundreds of billions, if not $1 trillion in free money to make sure that doesn't happen here. The reason for that is when deflation happens, while prices are dropping across the board, debt doesn't drop in value. In fact, if there's less dollars, the value of debt becomes even higher relative to the money that you have. And the government in America is the largest borrower on the planet. So that means the debt and the interest that the government has to pay skyrockets in value while tax revenues drop. I hope you guys like this inflation deflation breakdown and let me know any questions you have. Thanks for watching.